China cannot be stopped. China will prevail. These were the words declared by Xi Jinping, standing proudly alongside his allies Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un, as the vast legions of the Chinese army lined up in an unprecedented display of its nuclear triad. On the other side of the world, Donald Trump shouted defiantly, "Hey Xi, give my regards to Putin and Kim, and know this, you are conspiring against America." But China did not respond with words, it responded with power. For the first time, and in the presence of its allies Russia, North Korea, and Iran, Beijing unveiled its full strategic might. Land, sea, and air forces combined in a massive military parade commemorating its victory over Japan. Before the world appeared a column of JL-1 nuclear missiles launched from the air, JL-3 intercontinental missiles rising from submarines, and DF-61 and DF-31 missiles deployed from mobile land platforms. For the very first time, all arms of China's nuclear power appeared together in a single scene, along with mobile missile systems that granted extraordinary maneuverability. The message was clear: China is a power that cannot be deterred. And standing behind it were Russia and North Korea. This image alone was enough to illustrate the relationship between Xi Jinping and his good neighbor and loyal friend, Russian President Vladimir Putin, two of the most powerful men in the world. And when joined by Kim Jong-un, often called the nuclear madman by his enemies, not in jest but in fear, the trio presented an alliance that could not be ignored. They gathered under the hospitality of the Chinese Dragon at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. For the West, what was unfolding was neither surprising nor shocking, but it was terrifying. Xi, Putin, and Kim together in a grand political celebration, followed by the much more important event, the massive military parade. Do you remember when Xi once whispered to Putin that together they were leading the change of history? It was a rare glimpse into how both men saw themselves. Their relationship has long been symbolic. Years ago, Putin and Xi flipped pancakes together. Xi gifted Russia a panda, and later Putin celebrated Xi's birthday with ice cream and cake. But today, their celebrations carry a much greater purpose, a shared vision of a new world order, one less dominated by the United States, or perhaps one openly signaling the decline of Uncle Sam's power. Earlier this year, Xi was in Moscow watching Putin's military parade. Now, the roles were reversed. Putin was in Beijing, attending Xi's massive military display in Tiananmen Square, standing side by side once again. And then there was Kim Jong-un. He may not have the same weight of power as Xi or Putin, but underestimating him would be dangerous. Kim signed a defense agreement with Putin in Pyongyang, supplying weapons and thousands of soldiers for Russia's war in Ukraine. For Putin, Kim's support is vital. For Kim, it means money and recognition. Today, he sits at a rare seat at the table as three nuclear powers stand together for the first time on the world stage. Their joint mission, shared with India to a greater degree, is to undermine Washington's dominance and challenge the US-led system that has shaped global power for decades. To understand how China is shaping this new order, one only had to watch Xi warmly receiving the leaders of Russia, India, Iran, and Turkey, alongside 20 other Eurasian nations, at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. It was a gathering that presented a new model of international relations centered on China, at a time of rising geostrategic tensions and crippling American tariffs. This summit was unlike those held before Trump entered the White House. Heads of state and government from nearly 20 countries, along with international officials, gathered in the coastal city of Tianjin, a symbol of China's economic rise. Putin was among the first to arrive, greeted with the iconic Russian folk song Kalinka, blending politics with cultural symbolism. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi followed, making his first visit to China since 2018. welcomed personally by Xi himself. The arrivals kept coming, all for a summit held under tight security, armored vehicles, closed streets, and banners in Mandarin and Russian celebrating trust between Moscow and Beijing. It was perhaps the most important SCO summit since its founding in 2001, for its members now faced immediate crises: Russia's war in Ukraine, trade tensions between Washington, Beijing, and New Delhi, and the Iranian nuclear file. The final statement seemed to point directly at Washington, proposing military confidence-building measures, countering extremism and intolerance, rejecting unilateral sanctions, and calling for greater energy cooperation. Today, the SCO includes 10 members and 16 observer or partner states, representing half the world's population and nearly a quarter of the global economy. For China, it is not just an organization, it is a counterbalance to NATO, and a stage to showcase its diplomatic and military power. The messages coming from the summit hall weren't just technical, they were symbolic. Even before the summit began, Xi met with Modi, Erdogan, and other leaders who extended their stay to witness the Beijing parade marking the end of World War II. For this same occasion, Kim Jong-un made a rare trip outside his isolated country to stand shoulder to shoulder with Xi and Putin. It was an image worth more than words. 3 nuclear leaders in one place, making deals, sending messages, and declaring more than just an alliance. It was a direct challenge to America and its allies. Experts noted that the image itself was more powerful than any agreements. Even Xi described his partnership with India as the dance of the dragon and the elephant, a striking metaphor of a new Asian equation. Yet beneath the smiles lies rivalry, competition for influence in South Asia, and an unresolved border conflict. But today, they stood united against U.S. tariffs and in the face of a world in transformation. The summit came just days before Beijing staged one of its largest military parades in years. The air was heavy with history as Putin and Kim stood alongside Xi, watching China's army unveil its newest weapons. More than 20 foreign leaders attended, from Pakistan to Malaysia, from Iran to Myanmar. The parade featured 10,000 soldiers, hundreds of military vehicles, and ballistic missiles shown to the world for the first time. The timing was deliberate. September 3rd, the anniversary of Japan's surrender. For China, the message was twofold. We helped defeat fascism, and today, we are the rising power that will reshape the world order. While Trump's policies were upending America's alliances from the Middle East to the Pacific, leaving Washington's influence fragile. Into this vacuum stepped the dragon, joined by the bear and the defiant Korean neighbor. What the world witnessed was not just a military parade or a diplomatic summit. It was a declaration that the world order led by Washington for 70 years is no longer the only path forward. Xi put his army in the streets. Putin smiled from the platform. Kim waved to his soldiers. The West watched with anxious eyes. These were not commemorations of an old victory. They were rehearsals for a new future. That is why many analysts believe the Shanghai summit was not just another meeting, and the military parade was not just a show of strength. They were milestones in the greatest geopolitical shift since the end of the Cold War. The meeting of Xi, Putin, and Kim was no coincidence, but a carefully staged scene to confirm that another world order is being born out of crisis. The message was clear. The United States is no longer the sole hegemon. The dollar is no longer the measure of power. Washington can no longer impose its will unchecked. Beijing, Moscow, and Pyongyang may not be identical in everything, and contradictions exist among them, but they know this: their historical moment is now. To underestimate them would be a strategic mistake. The Tiananmen Parade was not merely soldiers, tanks, and missiles. It was the announcement of a new axis. The Shanghai Summit was the political front, the military parade the signature on the ground, and the meeting of Xi, Putin, and Kim, the living embodiment of the post-American era.